The Chicago skyline glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Sterling Enterprises headquarters, a 50-story beacon in the Loop. On the top floor, Michael Sterling, the 45-year-old CEO, sat at his polished mahogany desk, surrounded by reports and the hum of ambition. His life was a carefully orchestrated symphony of board meetings, stock motions, and billion-dollar deals. Interruptions were rare, and children in his office were unthinkable. But on a chilly October morning in 2025, the symphony screeched to a halt when a small figure appeared in his doorway. "Excuse me, sir," came a high, determined voice. "My mama's sick, so I came to work for her today." Michael's pen froze mid-signature. A 5-year-old girl stood there, drowning in a janitor's uniform 3 sizes too big. Her dark braids were tied with red ribbons, and her brown eyes shone with a resolve that didn't match her tiny frame. The uniform's sleeves were rolled up, the pants cinched with a belt, and she gripped a spray bottle in one hand, a rag in the other. "I'm Lily," she said, puffing out her chest. "My mama's Sarah Thompson. She cleans here, but she's in the hospital. I know what she does. She showed me." Michael blinked, his mind racing. Was this a prank? A security breach? But Lily's earnest gaze told him otherwise. She wasn't playing, she was on a mission. He leaned forward, softening his tone. "Lily, how did you get here?" She shuffled her scuffed sneakers, one lace untied. "I took the bus. Mama showed me the stops last summer. I used my birthday money dollars in quarters. You came alone." His voice betrayed a mix of awe and alarm. She nodded unfazed. "This building's the one with the big silver letters. Mama said it's important. She can't miss work again, or she might lose her job. So I came to help." Michael's jaw tightened. He'd negotiated mergers that reshaped industries, but this child's words hit harder than any corporate power play. She'd crossed Chicago's chaotic streets alone, driven by love for her mother. He stood, careful not to loom over her. "You're here to save your mom's job." Lily's braids bounced as she nodded. "She's the best mama. She works so hard, even when she's tired." The intercom buzzed, sharp and insistent. "Mr. Sterling, you're 9 a.m. With legalese waiting in the boardroom." He pressed the button. "Eyes still on Lily." "Cancel it. Clear my entire morning." A long pause. "All of it, sir." "Yes, everything." He turned back to Lily, who was watching him with wide eyes. "Are you hungry?" She shrugged, a small smile breaking through. "Got any orange juice?" He chuckled, retrieving a bottle from the mini fridge behind his desk. She took it with both hands, whispering, "Thank you," before climbing onto a leather couch by the window. Her legs dangled as she sipped, staring at the City Bellow Lake Michigan shimmer, the L trains rattling past. Michael watched her, struck by her presence. She was so small against the vast skyline, yet her courage filled the room. This wasn't just a quirky moment. It felt like the opening line of a story he needed to read to the end. Across town, in a sterile room, Mercy Medical Center, Sarah Thompson lay in a hospital bed, her breath shallow and labored. At 26, she carried the weight of a life forged in struggle. Her chestnut hair, once a cascade of curls, was pulled into a messy bun, and her hazel eyes held a quiet, unyielding strength. Years ago, she'd been a coding prodigy at Northwestern University, winning scholarships and dreaming of Silicon Valley. But a single choice-y fleeting romance had rewritten her future. At 19, she'd fallen for a grad student, charmed by his promises of forever. By 20, she was pregnant, and he was gone, leaving her with a broken heart and a positive test. Her conservative family, rooted in small-town Indiana, called her a sinner, urging her to end it. Sarah refused. The first ultrasound, a faint heartbeat on a grainy screen, was her anchor. Her parents disowned her, and she left with a duffel bag, $200, and the stubborn will to survive. The years that followed were a blur of hardship. She couch-surfed in Chicago's rougher neighborhoods, worked as a cashier, a dog walker, a diner cook, anything to keep going. Pregnancy drained her, but she whispered to her unborn child each night, "We'll make it, I promise." Lily was born during a January blizzard. placed in Sarah's arms by a weary nurse in a crowded hospital. That moment redefined her. Every choice since had been for her daughter. When Sarah landed the janitor job at Sterling Enterprises, it was a lifeline. The pay was modest $15 an hour, but the benefits, health insurance, and steady hours meant Lily had a warm bed, clothes, and books for bedtime stories. Sarah worked the night shift, scrubbing marble floors, polishing glass, and emptying trash cans in a skyscraper that gleamed because of her. No one knew her name, but she didn't care. Every mop stroke, every wipe-down desk was a step toward Lily's future. This winter, though, a cough settled in her chest, persistent and cruel. She ignored it, prioritizing Lily's meals over her own. Long shifts and skipped dinners weakened her, and one morning, a sharp pain seared through her chest. She collapsed, gasping, as Lily ran to her side, her tiny hands clutching Sarah's. Their neighbor, Mrs. Rivera, a retired schoolteacher, heard the commotion and called 911. In the ambulance, Sarah's thoughts weren't on her health, but on the rent due in a week, the groceries they needed, and the job she couldn't afford to lose. In the hospital, monitors beeped, and doctors murmured about pneumonia and low oxygen levels. Sarah barely listened. Her mind was on Lily, on the life she'd fought to build. Staring at the ceiling, she whispered, "Please, don't let me fail her." What she didn't know was that Lily, in a too-big uniform, was already at Sterling Enterprises, her small hands clutching a spray bottle, ready to change their fate. Michael's decision to cancel his morning meetings was unlike him. He was known for precision, for never letting personal matters derail his schedule. But Lily, sipping juice on his couch, made time feel irrelevant. She finished her drink, wiped her mouth with her sleeve, and looked around his office with unguarded curiosity. Framed awards lined the walls, a sleek coffee machine hummed in the corner, and a photo of Michael shaking hands with a senator sat on his desk. To Lily, it was a palace. "Is being a CEO hard?" she asked, her voice cutting through the silence. Michael smiled, leaning back in his chair. "Some days. There's a lot to keep track of: people, money, decisions." She nodded, as if she understood. "Mama says when you're in charge of something big, you gotta remember the little stuff too. Like how she cleans the corners nobody sees." Her words landed like a quiet thunderclap. They were the kind of truth adults often forgot, buried under layers of ambition. Michael blinked, caught off guard by the wisdom in pigtails. Lily stood, placing the empty juice bottle on his desk with care. "I should start working now," she said. "Mama always cleans your desk first. Says it gives the boss a fresh start." He raised an eyebrow, but didn't stop her. She pulled a tissue from her pocket, spreading it over her palm, a surgeon preparing for a procedure. With slow, deliberate circles, she wiped his desk, mimicking her mother's movements. Her technique was comically ineffective, had barely budged, but her focus was fierce, her small face set in concentration. Michael watched, a warmth spreading in his chest. He'd seen executives deliver polished presentations with less dedication. "You're a hard worker, Lily," he said. She beamed, not looking up. "Mama says do things right, even if no one's watching." That hit him harder than he expected. He'd built Sterling Enterprises on efficiency, on metrics and outcomes, but this child's earnestness reminded him of something purer, something he'd lost in boardrooms and balance sheets. Then, in a flash, disaster struck. As Lily reached across the desk to wipe a corner near his laptop, her arm knocked over his coffee mug. It wobbled, then tipped, spilling dark liquid toward a stack of contracts worth millions. Lily gasped, freezing. "I'm sorry," she cried, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean to. Please don't fire Mama. I was just trying to help." Michael lunged for napkins, blotting the spill before it ruined the papers. He turned to Lily, whose eyes were wide with panic, tears welling. She stepped back, clutching the tissue, bracing for a scolding. Instead, he knelt beside her, his 6-foot frame folding to meet her level. "Hey," he said gently, handing her a napkin. "It's okay. Accidents happen. I messed up," she whispered, her lip quivering. "No, you didn't. You were doing your best." And that's what matters, he smiled, brushing a stray braid from her face. You're the youngest employee I've ever had, and I'd say you're doing a hell of a job. Her tears slowed, a flicker of hope returning. Really? Really? He stood, watching as she carefully wiped a stray drop, her confidence creeping back. In that moment, Michael felt something shift, a connection, fragile but real. Lily, with her clumsy courage, had cracked open a part of him he'd kept locked away for years. He'd spent decades building walls, guarding his heart behind titles and wealth. But this child, in one spilled mug, had slipped past every defense. The next day, Michael couldn't focus, spreadsheets blurred, his mind fixed on Lily's braids, her fierce love for her mother. He needed to know more, not out of curiosity, but a pull he couldn't name. He buzzed his assistant, a sharp-edged woman named Carla, who'd been with him for a decade. Find out where Sarah Thompson was hospitalized. Get me her room number and visiting hours. Carla's voice crackled through the intercom. Sending flowers, sir. No, I'm going myself. By noon, he stood outside room 512 at Mercy Medical Center, his tailored suit out of place among the hospital's fluorescent lights and linoleum floors. Through the narrow window, he saw Sarah, pale but composed, her hand resting on her stomach, her hazel eyes fixed on a patch of sunlight on the wall. Her chestnut hair, slightly tangled, caught the light like a quiet halo. He knocked softly, and she turned, startled. Mr. Sterling. Her voice was hoarse as she struggled to sit up. What are you doing here? Please, don't move, he said, stepping inside and pulling a chair beside her bed. I met Lily yesterday. She marched into my office, ready to take over your job. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth, a mix of horror and amusement. Oh my God, she didn't. She brought a rag and a spray bottle, Michael said, a smile tugging at his lips. Said she was saving your job because she was sick and couldn't afford to miss work. Sarah let out a soft, tearful laugh. She's always watching me. I didn't think she'd. I'm so sorry, Mr. Sterling. She shouldn't have. Don't apologize. She's incredible. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. She told me you're the best mom in the world. She said you might lose your job if you missed another shift. She wanted to make sure that didn't happen. Sarah's eyes dropped to her hands, twisting the hospital blanket. I told her too much. She shouldn't worry about grown-up things. No, Michael said firmly. You taught her to care. That's not a mistake, it's a gift. He paused, searching her face. She told me a little about you, but I want to hear your story. From you. Sarah hesitated, her gaze flickering to his. She saw no judgment in his eyes, only curiosity, maybe even respect. She took a shaky breath and began. She told him about her days at Northwestern, coding late into the night, dreaming of startups. She described the grad student who swept her off her feet, only to vanish when she told him she was pregnant. Her family's rejection followed, their voices cold. You're throwing your life away. She spoke of leaving home, of scraping by in Chicago's underbelly, sleeping on couches, working endless jobs, her body aching through pregnancy. And then Lily, born in a snowstorm, a tiny spark that gave her purpose. When I got the job at Sterling Enterprises, it felt like a miracle, she said. It's just cleaning, but it means Lily has food, a bed, a chance. I work nights, make the place shine. No one notices, but that's okay. It's for her. Michael listened, his usual impatience gone. He saw the strength in her, the kind forged in fire. You've built a life for her, against all odds, he said. That's more than most people could do. Her eyes shimmered, and she looked away, embarrassed. You must think I'm a terrible mother, letting her go out alone like that. No, he said, his voice low but certain. I think you're the strongest person I've ever met. Tears spilled down her cheeks, and she turned her face to hide them. Michael sat quietly, not rushing to fill the silence. He didn't need to fix anything, just wanted her to know she was seen. Not as a janitor, not as a failure, but as Sarah, a woman who'd fought impossible battles and won. I'm sorry, she whispered, brushing at her eyes. Don't be, he said softly. You've earned every tear. In that hospital room, something shifted. For Sarah, It was the first time in years someone had seen her strength and meant it. For Michael, it was the stirring of something unfamiliar, a longing for connection, for meaning beyond his empire. Michael left the hospital with Sarah's story echoing in his mind. He couldn't shake his image of her in that bed, fighting for Lily, or Lily in his office, fighting for her. He began wandering the building's lower floors, places he'd never bothered with before. The janitor closets, the service elevators, the stairwells were Sarah's domain, and now they mattered to him. He noticed the faint smell of bleach, the scuff marks on the tiles, the quiet labor that kept his skyscraper gleaming. Sarah returned to work 2 weeks later, thinner and paler, but with the same quiet resolve. She moved through the building like a ghost, head down, mopping floors, wiping mirrors. Michael started making excuses to cross her path, checking renovations on the 15th floor, inspecting cleanliness standards in the lobby. Each glimpse of her grounded him. She'd been kneeling by a sink, her chestnut hair tied back, a few strands loose around her face. Even in her exhaustion, there was a grace that stilled him. One evening, he found her in a stairwell, struggling with a heavy bucket, the handle cutting into her fingers. Without a word, he stepped forward and took it from her. "Mr. Sterling, I can manage. I've got it," he said, carrying it up the steps. At the top, he set it down, meeting her eyes. "Just checking the HVAC reports," he said. The lie obvious. She smiled, a rare, warm thing. "Sure you were." Their gaze lingered, a spark passing between them, tentative, unspoken, but undeniable. The next day, Sarah returned to her closet on the 12th floor and found a clean white towel on her cart. A yellow sticky note was tucked beneath it. In handwriting she recognized. "Keep shining. Some of us see you. M." She pressed the towel to her chest, her heart racing. It wasn't a love note, not exactly, but it was care, simple, honest, and hers. She slipped the note into her pocket, a secret she carried through a shift. Their encounters grew brief, nods in hallways, a shared glance across the lobby. Each moment carried weight, like stones building a bridge between them. One night, as Sarah polished the marble floor of the executive hallway, Michael stepped out of his office, pausing in the doorway. The building was empty, the city lights casting long shadows. Their eyes locked, and the air grew heavy with something neither could name. Seconds stretched, charged with possibility, awareness, warmth, maybe longing. Sarah broke the gaze first, mumbling, "Good evening, sir," and turning back to her work. Her hands trembled as she gripped the rag. In the janitor's closet, she leaned against the shelves, pressing the towel to her face to hide a smile. "Get it together, Sarah," she whispered, but the smile stayed. Across the hall, Michael stood in his office, staring at the closed door. His fingers rested on the frame, his jaw tight. He'd spent his life in rooms of power, surrounded by people who wanted his title, not him. But Sarah was different, no pretense, just courage and warmth. "I'm falling for her," he whispered, the words slipping out before he could stop them. Trouble arrived like a storm. Jake Miller, Lily's father, appeared in the lobby one morning, leaning against the reception desk with a smirk. Sarah froze, her mop still in hand. She hadn't seen him in 6 years, not since she told him she was pregnant, and he walked out without a word. "Heard you're cozy with the big boss," Jake said, his voice dripping with charm that now made her skin crawl. "Word is, Sterling's got a soft spot for his janitor. What do you want, Jake?" Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. "A second chance, maybe a first chance to know my kid." He leaned closer. "Or maybe I just want what's fair. Sterling's generous to people he likes. He could be generous to me." Sarah's blood ran cold. "You're not here for Lily. You're here for money." He shrugged, his smile sharpening. "Call it options. But if people start asking about your little romance, your job might not look so secure." She turned and walked away, her heart pounding. But the damage was done. Whispers spread like wildfire. The janitor and the CEO. He cancelled a board meeting for her. Something's going on. By week's end, the rumors reached the boardroom. The directors called an emergency meeting, their faces grim. "You're compromising your objectivity," one said, adjusting his tie. "This woman is a liability. There are murmurs in the press," another added. "Investors don't like scandals." The chairman, a silver-haired man who'd mentored Michael early on, leaned forward. "Distance yourself from her, Michael. If she stays, we risk reputational damage." Michael listened, his jaw set, fingers steepled. He'd faced boardroom battles before, but this was different. This was about Sarah, about Lily, about the life he was beginning to imagine. When the room fell silent, he stood, his voice calm but unyielding. "Let me be clear," he said, his gaze sweeping the table. "If Sarah Thompson is targeted, disrespected, or removed from this company because of her association with me, I'll be the first to leave, effective immediately." The room froze. A director coughed. Another shifted uncomfortably. Michael continued, his tone thunderous in its certainty. "Sarah is not a liability. She's a human being, a mother, one of the hardest working people here. And more importantly, she's the woman I love." Gasps rippled through the boardroom. The chairman's mouth opened, then closed. Michael's eyes moved from one stunned face to the next. "I won't tolerate cruelty disguised as policy. If that means this company takes a hit, so be it." No one spoke. Heads lowered, and the meeting ended without a vote. Word of Michael's stand spread through the building by noon. Sarah, in the janitor's closet, heard it from a co-worker and felt her knees buckle. She began packing her things, her hands shaking, convinced she'd cost Michael everything. She was folding her uniform when he found her. "Sarah," he said, his voice soft but urgent, "what are you doing?" She didn't look up, tears blurring her vision. "I don't want to be the reason you lose everything. This company, your life overworked so hard." He stepped closer, taking her hands, stopping her frantic packing. "You're not the reason. You're the anchor. The first thing in years that's made me feel like a person, not just a title." She shook her head, tears falling. "You stood up for me. For us." He smiled, brushing a tear from her cheek. "You stood up for Lily, for everything. You didn't think anyone noticed, but I did. And now they all do." For the first time, Sarah believed him fully, deeply. In a world where power ruled, Michael had chosen her, and her heart felt safe in his hands. Michael knew Jake's threat wasn't over. Quietly, he hired Ellen Carter, a family law attorney with a reputation for protecting single mothers and dismantling manipulative men in court. Together, they built Sarah's case. 6 years of solo parenting, pay stubs, school records, medical bills, proof of a mother who'd raised her daughter with dignity despite abandonment. Jake appeared at the preliminary hearing, smug and unbothered, but when he saw Ellen's team and Michael in the courtroom, his confidence cracked. 3 days later, he withdrew his custody claim and disappeared. With Jake gone, Michael turned to Sarah's future. He remembered her talking about coding, her eyes lighting up as she described her college days. He created a new role at Sterling Enterprise as technical advisor for digital transformation and offered it to her. "We need someone who understands people, not just code," he said. "Someone who's built something from nothing." Sarah hesitated, gripping the edge of his desk. "I haven't touched code in years. What if I fail?" "You won't," he said. "Start here. We'll give you everything you need: mentors, courses, time." She took the leap. On her first day, she walked into the IT department in a navy blouse and slacks, her hair down, her nerves electric. Her questions about user experience, about the night staff's needs set her apart. She wasn't like the programmers with polished degrees. She saw the human side of tech. Within a month, she'd redesigned the company's maintenance software, cutting response times in half. Co-workers stopped her in hallways, not for cleaning supplies, but for her insights. Lily became a fixture at the office, skipping through the lobby after preschool, waving at security guards, leaving crayon drawings on Michael's desk. "This place smells like mama and happy now," she said one day, twirling in the elevator. Michael laughed, his heart full. He and Sarah grew closer than us at cozy diners, walks in Millennium Park, quiet evenings, watching Lily color. Their bond wasn't flashy, but deep, built on shared glances and small gestures. One night, As Sarah worked late on a prototype, Michael brought her coffee black, 1 sugar, just how she liked it. Lily, sprawled on the office couch, looked up and said, "You're like my dad, aren't you?" Sarah froze, but Michael's eyes filled with tears. "I'd be honored," he whispered. He didn't correct her, and neither did Sarah. They were becoming a family, not with grand gestures, but with love that felt like home. A year later, Sarah stood on a conference stage at McCormick Place, presenting her task management system to a packed auditorium. The screen behind her showcased a Democlean, intuitive, built for everyone from executives to custodians. She'd led the project from start to finish, pouring her heart into it. When the final slide faded, the room erupted in applause. Sarah's hands trembled, but this time, it was pride, not fear. Headlines followed, from janitor to tech visionary, a story of grit and genius. Offers poured in from Google, Microsoft, startups, but Sarah stayed at Sterling Enterprises. It wasn't about comfort. It was about purpose, about the family she'd found. One spring morning, Michael took Sarah and Lily to Lincoln Park for a picnic. The city was blooming, cherry blossoms dusting the paths. Under a sprawling oak, after unpacking sandwiches, Michael pulled out a velvet box. Sarah's breath caught. He didn't kneel, just held her hand, opening the box to reveal a simple emerald ring. "I don't need cameras or crowds," he said softly. "I just need you and Lily. This life we're building. Will you marry me?" Sarah nodded, tears streaming down her face. She couldn't speak, but her answer was clear. Lily, chasing butterflies nearby, ran over and saw the ring. "Mama, are you crying?" "Happy tears," Sarah said, laughing through them. Michael pulled Lily into their embrace. "What do you think, kiddo? Should we make it official?" "Yes," Lily squealed, grabbing their hands. "You're our superhero, Mr. Michael." Sarah looked at him, her voice soft. "You always have been." They married in a quiet ceremony at a lakeside venue, surrounded by friends and co-workers who'd become family. That night, Michael stood on their apartment balcony, the city glowing below. Inside, Sarah helped Lily with a puzzle, their laughter filling the air. He breathed deeply, a peace settling over him he'd never known. Lily's courage had sparked it all. A child's love had woven together a mother's strength and a man's heart, proving that kindness, resilience, and a single brave step could rewrite any story. What did you think of this story? In the comments, share your thoughts, especially on the themes of injustice and struggle. Did Jake's manipulation make your blood boil? Should Sarah have confronted him herself? Or was Michael's legal approach the right call? How would you handle someone like Jake in your life? Take a stand and let us know. Your voice matters, and we're reading every word.